When you go to the grocery store, you're likely paying more for your favorite items, maybe even a lot more. The Consumer Price Index for meats, poultry, fish, and eggs is up 30% since the start of 2020. Looking at beef and veal specifically, the Consumer Price Index report shows prices were up 4.2% in August compared to the same time last year. News Channel 7's Hunter Funk sat down with Idaho beef producers and learned whether this upward trend is expected to continue.
Like any product, there's a process on how our food gets to the dinner table. For beef, ranchers raise cattle typically for 2 to 3 years. Then it goes to production to be processed and gets delivered to the grocery store, where you, the consumer, picks it up and takes it home.
Idaho is unique in that we can go through that entire process here in the state. From the starting cow-calf operation all the way through your plate can happen right here in Idaho. Not all states have that.
And like everything, there's cost in all of this. For ranchers, on average, they pay $1,200 per cow per year. But in years of drought and fire, the cost increases.
Drought a few years ago kind of caused some herd reduction for lower cattle numbers, which is part of what's, leading to where we're at now. And then these fire situations.
During a drought, grain prices tend to spike, making it more expensive for ranchers to buy feed. In drought and fire, there's fewer grazing options, making ranchers buy more of that, again, expensive feed.
All those factors here locally in Idaho develop into a regional problem because we have the cattle base and the forage here in Idaho that really is a big part of the West.
Cost impacts have ranchers making tough decisions like lowering their herd count by processing cattle that would have stayed in production for another 3 to 5 years.
We do have relatively low supply at the moment.
Ag economist Brett Wilder says it's partially because of a big drought 3 years ago. Up until 2022, producers were able to keep up because cattle were able to get bigger, and they were able to do more with that product. Now, the herd sizes have been reduced, and there's not enough cattle moving through the system.
But as we move forward into 25, 26, I would expect that supply continues to be very low. It takes a long time. It's almost a 2-year cycle, really almost a 3-year cycle if you want to talk about from the time that cow is bred to the time you have a calf and a steer finished out and beef on your table.
Simply put,
it boils down to supply and demand. The U.S. cattle herd is as low as it's been in quite some time. But demand remains high.
Impacts from this year are also not showing promise for those high prices in the future. The fires across the region have burned thousands of acres for cattle to graze on, and some ranchers even lost cattle in those fires. Wilder expects prices to continue to climb through 2025.
It's really not a great time to be a consumer, and so that's all of us, right? Regardless of what we do for a living, or even those of us that participate in production agriculture, those farmers and ranchers that are out boots on the ground, they're still consumers too.
Wilder's optimistic prices will come back down in 2027, 2028. But for the time being, is there any way for you to save money on buying beef? The answer, shop local and bite the upfront cost of buying a cow from a local ranch.
Going to a producer and buying a half or a full beef and have it processed yourself, if you look at the total cost of all the cuts, it would bring it down.